afternoon. Thanks very much. Thanks for the welcome. Yeah, thank you very much. And I don't know if Professor Ian Greer is actually with us. Just to, this is supposed to be joint. I'm not quite sure what a joint address is because neither of us knows what either of us is saying. But anyway, I don't know if Ian is actually on the line, but my colleague, yes, I think he is. Professor Ian Greer should be here, and I'll say a few words first and then hand over to Ian. Hi, Ian. We're all looking at you, Ian, just to let you know. Ian, you're very welcome. And I was just saying there, Ian, that I think neither of us knows what either of us is going to say, so I hope I'm not going to in any way encroach on what you've got to say. But I'll kick off first, and I'll hand over to you if that's okay. He's on mute. If that's okay. Yeah. Is he? Yeah. Is that okay? So I'll proceed. So look, I was just saying to colleagues, to Mark, and to Keith, to Gerard, and to Noel that I remember so well the event that launched the Breath project here. It's 4.5 years ago, and I remember it because I had only shortly arrived actually in DkIT as its president. So I was really getting to know the job and feel my way and so on and so forth. But I remember being here and thinking, well, wow, this is such a terrific project. And as a consequence, I suppose, because I had just associated with the beginning of my tenure, it's always kind of held a special place in my consciousness. So I'm going to feel kind of lonely, actually, now when it's, I won't say when it's over, because what's really great was just listening to all the speakers that I had the privilege to listen to Lorraine, to John, to Emma, and to Keith, is that it's very clear that there are so many events and things that are going to continue on into the future, and that's what's really terrific about it. So I suppose, just to say, I mean, formally to say it is a great pleasure to be here to welcome the colleagues from Queen's University, from the west of Scotland, and obviously here DkIT. And yes, it's a day of celebration, isn't it? But likewise, a slightly sad day in that the whole thing is drawing to a bit of a conclusion. So we just have to, gives us motivation to find other ways to work together. And maybe that's what it's about. And I suppose the great thing about the chronic obstructive pulmonary disease that every research in every field, it's aimed at discovery, which may or may not have an immediate application. But of course, we're always, I suppose, within research, pursuing something which will hopefully improve society and improve the human condition in some way, or improve the environment. But in the case of the Breath project, the aim was very, very specifically. There was a very, very specific need, a population of people who were suffering, are suffering, and will continue to suffer. And I suppose the celebration today is that it's about the advances that have been made through this particular project, which will lead to, as we've heard, to improvements in therapies, techniques, and treatments that will improve the life of so many people. And it was great to hear, and so impressive to hear Mark Charters there speak about his particular experience. And of course, it's not just the lives of people like Mark, it's their families and their friends and the people who care for them. Their lives also will be improved, and maybe that's a dimension that we don't necessarily think about. So I suppose in that regard, I'm not a scientist, and I wasn't involved in the project, but everybody else here was. And just to say to you, I just take my hat off to you, and to say that you should be indeed incredibly proud of the work that's gone on and the good that has actually been done. So Breath, to give it the Border and Regions Airways Training Hub. It's a cross-border hub. It involved, as I said, DkIT Queen's and the University of Scotland, funded by Interreg. It's pretty important that we say all these things, so we sow them into the record, and hopefully there'll be future funding. The Department of Economy, Northern Ireland, Enterprise, Trade and Employment in Ireland, and the University of Scotland. And okay, the outputs in terms of, and I think we've listened to these already, a cluster of scientists and technicians. The cost of COPD to the EU, if it hasn't been mentioned already, is estimated to be 141 billion. I presume that's an annual figure. It's one of the world's greatest killers. And I have a vivid memory of at one of the first briefings that I attended, and I think it was Professor Mark Hollywood, who distributed paper straws to those of us in attendance and said, breathe through that and you get some notion of what people are suffering. And I've never forgotten it, actually. So it made a huge impression on me. The academic leads, and I was delighted that I was here to listen to Professor Keith Thornbury, to listen to Professor Lorraine Martin, Professor John Lockhart, and could I just say, John, you were very generous to acknowledge the success of Ireland in the Triple Crown. That's the really important competition, isn't it? Never mind this old Six Nations World Cup stuff. You know, it's the Triple Crown is the really important competition, and also Professor Lorcan McGarvey. He's not actually here yet. So I think we probably know it's maybe been rehearsed already. The objectives were to identify novel diagnostics and therapeutic targets, to increase research and innovation across the region by providing world-class training to the next generation of researchers, and to develop an innovative cross-border inter-regional research hub focusing on the unmet need of COPD, and achieve critical mass that will impact upon the region by combining complementary clinical, scientific and innovative skills. And the achievements to date, and I'll just briefly rehearse them, I'm sure they've maybe been touched on already earlier in the presentations. We trained 28 young scientists to PhD level, in both project-specific scientific skills and through industrial interactions in transferable and complementary industry and relevant skills. Many people have progressed to very good jobs in industry and in academia, and we have the active collaborations dealt with already with 3 industrial partners, 16 local and international companies, 80 conference presentations and papers produced, most of which have a cross-border authorship, and the extensive public outreach programme and school visits spoken to already. The prize, the Vice Chancellor's Prize for Research Culture in 2020. And I suppose then just switching back to ourselves, there's a lot of talk about cross-border, and Keith just asked me to say a few words about this, because when I came to DkIT, I think one of my guiding or one of my motivations to come to DkIT and indeed to take up the post was that I always felt that as an institute, it's a super institute, and it always, going back I think 2.5 decades, great research traditions cross-border, but we never really recruited as many undergraduate students from Northern Ireland as I feel we should. And I'm delighted that over the last few years we've increased that number. We've very much increased our footprint in the north, and that we very much have tried to change the orientation of the college and project ourselves more as cross-border and working to drive prosperity, social inclusion and environmental enhancement across the region, across the counties of Armagh, Down, Louth, Cavan, Monaghan and Meath on what we call the Belfast-Dublin corridor, and I suppose in a manner which is blind to the border, totally blind to the border, and just simply sees people and sees communities and sees needs, and that we in the public sector and the public service needs to respond to that. So it's wonderful to see that through this collaboration we've achieved yet another way to work with our colleagues in Queen's University Belfast, who've been such great partners with DkIT over many decades, in fact over I think almost 2.5 decades. So it was great to see this collaboration, and we're currently working on a further MOU to see other ways of working, and likewise with the University of West Scotland we would hope that our relationship would deepen and strengthen there. So look, I want to hand over to Ian. I think I've probably used up my particular slot, so just to say pleasure to be here. Congratulations to all of you for the discovery and the advances that have been made and will continue to be, and the actions that will continue. And as I said to you, you should indeed be very proud. Thank you. So I'll hand over to you. Thank you. So I'm going to hand over to Ian. Ian, you're very welcome. Good to see you. Good to go. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Michael. It's really good to be joining you, albeit virtually this afternoon, and to share this celebratory event with you. Now, at Queen's, we really pride ourselves on transforming people's lives, not just locally, but with international impact. We've got a lot of challenges in the current day. We've got the impact of COVID-19 that we're still living with. We've got facing the future beyond Brexit, which is a challenge on both sides of the border. We've got the economic and political situation, and our heart goes out to the people in the Ukraine. We've got the climate emergency, we've got poverty and inequity, and of course, we've got multiple education and health challenges on these islands. But I believe we've got much more that we can do in an effective way when we work collaboratively in partnership with others, with leaders in their fields, in institutions, across sectors, and of course, individually. And Breath is a really perfect example of this effectiveness. It's achieved a great deal in just over 5 years, as you've set out, Michael. It's been addressing the causes, the treatment, and importantly, the prevention of COPD. Now, sadly, as you've said, COPD carries a major level of morbidity and mortality for our populations, as well as that economic impact of over 140 billion euros per year in the EU that you referred to. So it's fitting for that reason that Breath brings institutions across 3 jurisdictions together: DkIT, Queen's Belfast, and the University of the West of Scotland. It's created an innovative cross-border inter-regional research hub with true international impact. It provides world-class training, as you've said, that there's almost 30 PhD students who have gone on to successful careers, all because of Breath. Breath collaborates with industry partners and engages with local and international companies. That's why Breath is so successful, delivering impact through partnership across institutions, across sectors, across individuals, and as you've said, across borders. So Queen's is really proud to be part of this initiative, and we look forward to exciting futures building on this. As you've said, Michael, none of this would have been possible without significant funding. I think almost 9 million euros from the EU, from the Northern Ireland Executive, from the Irish Government, and from the University of the West of Scotland itself. It's a perfect exemplar of the power of cross-border working, representing the best of our talents across these islands. We need more successful partnerships like this. So I commend this project to you for breathing life into an important area of research, and also for breathing life into a new way of working across the borders to address well-being issues for our people, for our economies, and for wider society. So I look forward to expanding our collaboration, not only building on this initiative, but in other areas in the months and indeed the years to come. So I'm looking forward to much continued success in cross-border projects that we can build on using the experience and the success of Breath. So many congratulations, enjoy your celebration, and it's great to be with you, and I look forward to the future.